Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello, and welcome back to another live stream. How's everybody doing so far this week? How's everybody's day going? Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another live stream. Very excited to get back on here with everyone. Gain some more conviction through experience. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning and welcome back. Or good day, depending on where you're from. How's everybody doing so far this week? How's everybody's day going so far? Morning, good morning, good morning. Take some time to say good morning to the community, see how everybody's doing before we get into any information. Hey, good morning, Tyree. Good morning, Saju. Good morning, Karen. Good morning, Mario. Good morning, Trader Kyra. Good morning, Mr. Gangster. Good morning, Shravan. Good morning, Alexis. Good morning, Duke. Good morning, Maya. Good morning, Frank. Good morning, HMH. Good morning, Jackson. Good morning, Darts. Good morning, Tatiana. Good morning, Thunder. Good morning, Eos. Good morning, Monk. Good morning, Esdras. Good morning, Samuel. My favorite... Yeah, I guess maybe we could get some new intro songs. I haven't thought about that yet. Or maybe it's a good thing. My favorite morning of the week. Good morning, Christina. Good morning, June. Good morning, Vis. Good morning, Dali. Hope everybody's week is going well. Hope everybody's day is going well. Just taking some time to welcome the community to the stream, and then we'll get into some conversations. Good morning, Sadio. Good morning, Rav. Good morning, Mint. Good morning, Livy. Good morning, King. Good morning, Precision. Good morning, June 30 Trades. Good morning, Tosh. Good morning, Caesar. Gaetano, what's up? Good morning, Marin. Good morning, Ronnie. Good morning, Matthew. Zicky, how are you doing today? Good morning, ICT Room. Good morning, Alfred. Hello, hello, hello. Hope everybody's week is going well. Hope everybody's day is going well. Good morning, Delarue. Good morning, Althea. Good morning, Apple. Good morning, Matus. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Adam. Good morning, Rami. Good morning, Francis. Hope everybody's day is going well. Hope everybody's week is going well. Let's see how everybody's doing so far this week. Throw a 1 in the chat if you're green on the week. Throw a 2 in the chat if you're red on the week. And throw a 3 in the chat if you have not taken a trade yet this week. See how the community's doing so far this week. Good morning, Peter. With that being said, you guys got to realize that we are seeing some historical times right now. I mean, literally for the record books. Yesterday was one of the largest reversals. It might have been the largest reversal ever. ES was up about 4% at its peak, just to reverse back to the lows. One of the largest reversals we've seen in the market in history. So, specifically bringing this up to let you know that there's nothing easy about trading, let alone the fact that we're dealing with historical volatility. So, talk about the hardest business there is. making it a little bit harder. Let's just make it a little bit harder by throwing, you know, all the tariff news in there. You know, random Trump tweets that just send the market up 5%, down 5%. Some historical changes in volatility. So I'm just trying to put it into perspective that, you know, if you're red on the week, don't be too harsh on yourself. You got to be able to fail forward, to continue to keep trying no matter the outcome. If you're green on the week, phenomenal job. You still have to learn from your winners just like you learn from your losers. And if you're break even on the week because you haven't participated yet, that's more than okay. There's a lot of people that are sidelined right now because of the volatility. Okay, so just to put things into perspective right now, we are dealing with some historical times. Okay? Don't let it deter you mentally or emotionally to the point where it makes you blow up. Okay? What other people are doing on social media should have no impact on what you're doing, right? You have no clue what they had to go through to get to that point, right? If you're seeing some crazy astronomical gain that's being posted online, that does not mean that you should try to do the same thing. Okay, so focus on your process. Allow the results to be a byproduct of that. Don't allow anybody else's opinion. Don't allow anybody else's result to deter your process. Just focus on implementing your process. And know that there's nothing easy about this. We're going to have to continue to keep working and learning every single week. And it's not getting any easier with the increased volatility. Okay, so that's the first thing that I wanted to talk about. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is long-term investing. Now, you are responsible for any of your own risk. Please see the risk disclosure. This is not financial advice. Please do not follow what I'm doing. We are here to work and learn together. I'm here to share my own experience in the marketplace. I'm not giving financial advice. Please hear me loud and clear. Please read the risk disclaimer in the description of this video. With that being said, it's a classic business term of buy low, sell high, right? You'll see a lot of people on the internet talking about buy fear, sell greed. Okay, and I'm just going to point out a couple things to reference that statement. Okay, let's think about some of the most recent maximum pain events, the most recent maximum fear events. Okay, if you ask me, the most recent would probably be COVID, right? March 2020. Okay. Maybe before that, the housing crash of 2008. Let's put this into perspective now. This is the reason behind the statement. Now just think, either one of these gray boxes are maximum fear, maximum pain. Imagine if you purchased maximum fear. Imagine if you invested in maximum fear. All right, it's a very easy conversation for some of the older folks that are here. It's a very easy question. You know, If you bought a house during the '08 crash, how nicely are you sitting in profits on that house right now? That's the point that I'm trying to make here. Same thing goes for COVID. For any of the investors that were here during COVID, how nicely are your gains from your purchases during COVID? Buy low, sell high. Buy fear, sell greed. Okay, so I'm purposely bringing this up because the media is not going to tell you that, right? When you turn on the news channel, they're going to say, "Oh, recession, the world's coming to an end, tariffs, the economy's dying, blah blah blah." They're not going to tell you buy low, sell high. They're not going to tell you that these are some of the best buying opportunities. Right? If you purchased during COVID, you literally got a 2x on your investment. NASDAQ was at 10K. It went to 20K. You doubled your money in just a couple years. Why aren't they talking about that? So don't fall into the headlines. Don't get too fearful because all they want to talk about is, this is the worst decline the market has ever seen, worse than the '08 crash. If you bought during the '08 crash, you'd be sitting very nicely, is what they should be saying. All right, so I understand that we've always been focusing on day trading here on our live streams and in our communities, but we need to talk about this because of the opportunity that's being presented. This is not something that presents itself often. Okay, right? COVID happened 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it is. We're finally getting another Max Payne event. Okay, so the other way that we could talk about this is that, the market doesn't see halts up or down, but the last halt that occurred, right, a last price limit that occurred was COVID. So don't be scared by a price limit. Don't let the market halt, make you think that the world's coming to an end. In my opinion, I would love to see another market halt because that would give another long-term opportunity. Now, before we get into the day trading, we just have to finish up this conversation, so please be patient with me. Again, this is not financial advice. Please read the risk disclaimers. You are to be responsible for your own risk. I will not take responsibility for it. Now, the next thing that needs to be talked about for this conversation is that we have to do it responsibly. Okay? We can't, put our entire net worth into a long-term position. You need to take care of yourself. Your family and your health is always the number one priority. Right? So make sure the mortgage is paid. Make sure the bills are paid. Make sure there's food in the refrigerator, right? So don't put yourself in jeopardy to get a long-term position. Just slowly dollar cost average into it, right? Take small amounts, such a small amount that if you took it right now, if you took that small amount and lit it on fire, that it wouldn't bother you. That it's okay. You would watch it burn and you wouldn't feel anything. I'm not exaggerating. It literally needs to be at a dollar amount that you do not care about. Because you're not going to touch it again for the next 20 to 25 years anyways. That's why. You're never going to see that dollar again. You'll be handing it down to your kids. And that's the only mindset that long-term investing should have. Dollar cost average into it at a comfortable rate where if you made those purchases, you would not feel anything in your day-to-day life. Just make small purchases once a week, once a month, once every other month, whatever is comfortable to you. Right? Everybody has their own situations in life. So your situation is not going to be the same as mine. So my dollar cost average is not going to be the same amount as yours. It's not going to be the same frequency of yours. But during max pain is the time to have this conversation. And that's why we needed to have this conversation today. That's why we haven't had it any other time, because you don't see these max fear events often. They only happen every couple years. And now the next thing I have to say is this is not fear inducement. I'm not making anybody scared. And that's not the purpose to this conversation. The purpose of this conversation is to get prepared for the event, right? If we see a limit down day, I want to have cash ready to make those long-term purchases. That's the purpose here. Prepare for that moment. If we see a limit down, have that cash ready to make those long-term purchases. And when we do, just make small purchases. There is no timing that, right? There's not day trading. Just start DCAing into it once a week, once a month, whatever your frequency is. The next thing I would say is only use the best of the best. We have to guarantee that our money will be here in the long term. Right? So for me, the best of the best is housing, right? For humans only need a few things. Food and shelter. So I've been investing in real estate. That's the top of the top for me. And then the indexes, right? S&P 500 or NASDAQ, right? We're currently on the NASDAQ right now. Yes, this is the futures chart, but this resembles the NASDAQ. Or the S&P 500. Right? I'm not going to bring up named stocks. I'm not going to look at penny stocks. I'm not going to look at things that have never been heard before, because it's not going to be here in the long run. Right? Like who was around for the AMC meme days, the GME meme days? Because if you bought into that hype, that misinformation on the internet, it's probably worth nothing now. That's the point that I'm trying to make. With long-term investing, you only use the top of the top. The best of the best. Right? So the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, that's the money machine of the world. AMC and GME, that's a joke, is what that is. Literally a meme. And the chart speaks for itself. We could just take a look at it real quick. Right, here is S&P 500, and let's look at the long-term trajectory of the S&P 500. You know, this thing just keeps going higher. Right, take a look at that. Yeah, that's what I would want to put my money into. Let's take a look at the memes. I mean, what a joke. This thing is it even moving anymore? Like, is there even a pulse there? Like, What is this? Garbage. Right, so a lot of people probably got stuck in this because they bought into the hype of this run up. They probably watched their money go up and they were very happy and then didn't take their profits and now it's worth nothing. That's the point that I'm trying to make here, is that the entire conversations we're trying to talk about the long-term investing. If you're going to do long-term investing, you should only use the top of the top. You should focus on DCAing during max pain or max fear. It should be a dollar amount that you're comfortable with never touching again. And you have to understand that it's for the long term. It's not day trading. You're going to have to hold on to it for 20, 25 years. You're going to want to hand it down to your kids. Okay, so I just wanted to get through that conversation because, you know, we don't normally see these type of events. So now that we're dealing with something like that, we have to have that conversation. We can get back to the day trading like our normal live streams, but since we're dealing with that event, we needed to have a quick conversation about that. If you want to continue that conversation, we could do that in Discord. After the live stream, we can continue that conversation. Now we can move over to or back to our day trading. Before we do, if you get any value from these live streams, if I've helped you throughout the years that we've been live streaming, do me a favor and like the video and sub to the channel. That way you can participate with us here in chat. Sub only for the chat. That way you could be notified for any upcoming live streams or educational videos. All right, so let's take a look. Get the prior drawings off of here. That was from this week's analysis. And let's begin our process. All right, now we'll move over to the day trading. Now that we've completed that conversation, we just need to make sure that we got through that information first because we're currently dealing with that situation. So in terms of day trading and creating our game plan, you know, we always do the same thing. Hence why we're getting over to the economic calendar. So first thing that I want to point out here is CPI is tomorrow. I don't know if anybody was watching NFP last week, but it seems as if the tariff news is more important than the high impact news drivers here currently. If you were here during NFP last week, it was a complete dud. I mean, there was barely any volatility during the release. Probably because the market's been moving up and down 5% anyways without the news. So it looks like the tariff news is more important, which that's not going to be on this economic calendar. We're going to have a random Trump tweet saying that, you know, China increased their tariffs by another 100%. And, you know, that'll send us in either direction. You'll instantly see volatility from it. So due to the unknown nature of the volatility right now, the first thing that I have to say is you have two decisions to make here. Either understand the risk. It is clearly a larger risk because there's more volatility. So you should change your position size to risk accordingly. Right, if your normal position size is 1 mini, you should probably go down to the micros because of the volatility. We are risk managers, so we have to think in terms of risk, not reward. Right? If you're sitting there saying, I'm only willing to risk $500 today, yeah, you should probably get off the minis then, because $500 will happen in 1 second. So go down to the micros, change your position size, realize the environment that's currently happening, realize the volatility, see the volatility, right? You can just get on the charts and see that we're having 100-point candles. And change your position size. Go lower position size. Very simple. Second decision would be to just sit on the sidelines. Right? If you just want to focus on catching a long-term position, just sit back. Don't worry about the day trading, right? Day trading is not everyday trading. You do not need to trade every single day. You need to manage your risk. Risk management is the #1 priority at all times. So if you're not comfortable with the amount of risk currently, it's more than okay to just sit on the sidelines and wait. There's nothing wrong with that. Day trading is not everyday trading. Okay, so that'll determine on how you want to participate today. If you do want to participate today, then you can begin to create a game plan. Right, so what you saw on my chart earlier was yesterday's bias. Yesterday we saw that we tapped into this bearish FEG here. When we tapped into this gap, there was bearish SMT. You can see that ES took out the previous day high. When NQ failed to take out the previous day high, right? That's bearish SMT at a location of a bearish bias, right? The bearish FEG. Okay. Now that's a good trade to take because it's aligned with the order flow and you have a very clear draw on liquidity. If you come to both ES or NQ, you can see that there's failure swings at the lows. Right? Both ES and NQ have failure swings at the lows. See it here. So a very clear draw on liquidity. Okay, so I'm currently aiming at the lows. I think that we'll get new lows on the week. Both ES and NQ. Whether they want to save those for CPI, that's not up to me to determine. We are to be objective to price action. Right? We don't force ourselves upon price action. Objective means without influence. So be objective to the information presented on the screen. Okay, so that's my draw on liquidity. We'll see. Looks like it took out, it was probably London highs here. Look. Okay, so it took out London highs. Important level of liquidity. Prior session lows here to aim at. See if ES took out. Yep. Both of them took out London highs. See if there's any divergence at the London highs. You then aim at the lows. If there's any entry functions presented at that location to aim at the lows. I would also point out the correlation between Dixie and the indices. A lot of people use Dixie as a risk on or risk off indicator, right? Dixie is inversely correlated to NQ and ES. So when Dixie's moving down, NQ and ES should be moving up. Right? They're inversely correlated. And that's why I'm pointing this out right now. Because they're not currently inversely correlated. Both of them have been moving lower. So that's insight to the environment. Right? They should be inversely correlated. Since they're not, that's an issue. That shows the indecision in the marketplace. Okay, so we'll see. We will point out any entry functions that occur. Multiple forms of drawing liquidity here at the lows. Prior session lows, prior day lows. Okay, now that we got through our conversations and some analysis, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to throw it in chat. And we can go over them as we're waiting and watching. How important is that for Dixie to be inversely correlated to NQ and ES? That's not the main thing that determines a bias. It's just a probability. Right, the way that I determine a bias is price action. I go to the daily chart. I look to see if price has tapped into an FVG or a swing high or low. If it did, that's what determines a bias, not the correlation between the two assets. So it is not as important as price action itself. Price action is what determines the bias. The correlation is just something that shows probabilities. Again, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to throw it in chat. We can go over it now that we've gone through our conversations. Is our bias confirmed for today? I don't know what type of confirmation you're looking for. Bias is simply just an idea to get you in and out of position. You don't need a confirmation to have a bias. You can generate an idea and then look to see if price action aligns with that idea. Been struggling to find a breaker block and how to mark it. Here's a bullish breaker. Here's a bullish breaker. You need to have a swing low. You need to have a swing high. You need to have a new low, then a new high. Okay, so this is a bullish breaker. The bullish breaker, you will always find in between number 1 and number 2. All right, so the first swing low to the first swing high, where you will find the bullish breaker. You always use an up close candle for a bullish breaker. So between number 1 and number 2, you're looking for the highest up close candle before the leg down that took liquidity, and that would be your bullish breaker. Okay, that's how you find a bullish breaker. Same thing for a bearish breaker, but the opposite. So a bearish breaker, here is a bearish breaker. A bearish breaker, you'll always look between number 1 and number 2, the initial swing high to swing low. And a bearish breaker will always be a down closed candle. So you're using the lowest down closed candle in this leg here from number 1 to number 2. That would be your bearish breaker. Okay. I think he means, has market structure shifted towards bias? It's very clear that we're moving higher, right? So if you have a bearish bias, I would not be looking to short yet. Price is moving higher. Right? It doesn't even matter because there's no entry function on the screen. So even if you have a bearish bias, this hasn't occurred right here. A bearish breaker. And even if you need to have a market structure shift or a change in the state of delivery, that's what a bearish breaker is, right? This would be your change in the state of delivery right here. So if you needed to wait for a change in the state of delivery, that's the same exact thing as waiting for a breaker. That is a form of change in the state of delivery. And that hasn't happened yet. Right, so we don't just instantly go in and short because we have a bearish bias. You still need to have an entry function, a way to engage with the marketplace. Kindly, can you clear, as I think bias is bearish today, as yesterday's candle is bearish, but today's candle is not in the bearish FEG? Yeah, I already stated that I'm looking for the lows, right? My draw on liquidity is the lows. So I'm literally stating, right, bearish bias. I'm looking for this to be the draw on liquidity. These lows here. Right, and I understand that price is moving higher. I do not need to engage with price because there's no entry function. I do not need to determine a new bias. I'm looking for the lows as my bias or draw on liquidity. Those two things mean the same thing. Now you just wait and you be patient enough for price to provide a signature to engage with that bias. Right? If price just continues to keep moving higher, that's okay. You don't have to get bias correct all the time. Especially when there's no entry function, right? No risk. Okay? No reward. You don't have to take a risk just because you have a bias. More importantly, if you take no risk and your bias is wrong, that's good because then you don't lose any money, even when you're wrong. It's about being the best loser. So right now, bias is bearish for me. But there's nothing for me to use to engage with the marketplace. This is not on the screen right now, right here. A bearish breaker. Okay, so I'm allowed to be bearish, and I'll continue to keep being bearish, and I will wait to see if that occurs. Does the FEG have to be inside the breaker block? Yes, if you want to use the unicorn model, the FEG has to be aligned with the breaker block. It does not matter how much it's aligned with the breaker block. It is simply touching the breaker or it's not. Right, so since I have a bearish bias, I'm going to provide a short example. This would be a bearish breaker. We would find the lowest down close candle here, right? So that the gray box would be the breaker. And you need to have an FEG aligned with the breaker. So here's the FEG right here. Right, notice how 50% of it is touching the breaker. That's fine. This is also fine if only 10% of it's touching the breaker. This is not fine when it's not touching the breaker at all. Okay, so it's either touching the breaker or it's not. If it's not touching the breaker, then it is not the unicorn model. Okay. For study purposes, NQ 1 hour at 2100. Did we have a uni? NQ hourly chart 2100. Yeah, that is correct. Very good job. Right? That is correct. Swing low, swing high, new low, new high. So you have all of the swing points. Right? Swing low, swing high, new low, new high. A bullish breaker will always be an up close candle. So this is your bullish breaker here. Notice how you have an FVG aligned with it. Right? This is an hourly bullish unicorn. Right? So it would be confirmed right here. This is the very first moment that the bullish unicorn is a confirmed entry function. Right here. Right? So if you see this confirmation, and the confirmations are a stop hunt, that's the first one. A breaker block is the second one. And the third one is an FEG aligned with the breaker. Right, so this is number one right here. Stop hunt when we run below the low. What a stop hunt is. Right here, that's number one. Number two is the bullish breaker, the up close candle. That's number two. And then number three would be the FEG, which is right here. Once you have all three of your criteria to the entry function, that's when you have a confirmed unicorn. Okay. And then you enter from the beginning of the breaker block, stop at the low, and aim at your target. Right? So you get an entry here, you get an entry here, you get an entry here, and now it's moving into profits. Right? So this is already 1-to-1 R, right? If you want to just call it a day at 1-to-1 R, there you go. Right? You just obtained 385 points on NQ. So that is correct. That is an hourly bullish unicorn. Very good job. Feel free to throw any questions or comments in the chat. We're going over any questions or comments as we're watching live price. As we do, just give me 2 seconds. I'm going to take a sip of water and then get back to the questions. Thank you very much for your patience. Again, if you found any value in these live streams, do me a favor and like the live stream. Like this video. Sub to the channel. That way you can be notified for any upcoming live streams. And let's see where we left off on the questions. What about kill zones? I'm from the US, so I only participate in New York Open. Asia Open and London Open are completely fine as well. The only thing that I have to say about the kill zones is I would not participate outside of the kill zones. I would only participate during the kill zones. I have a huge psychology issue. Is there anything in your mentorship that could help? Yes, we talk about psychology a lot. We run an accountability program called 2190. Takes 21 days to build a habit. Takes 90 days to make a lifestyle. There's many different live streams that we go over that conversation as well, both mental and emotional intelligence. That's only for the mentorship, though. That is not in the public Discord. So if you want to join the mentorship, the link is shown in the description of this video. Thank you, Tyree. I also agree with that. Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas is an absolute gem. If you haven't read that book yet, I highly suggest doing so. Also, The Best Loser by Tom Hogarth. I would 100% read those two books. Huge psychological intelligence, mental intelligence, emotional intelligence. Helps a lot there. I would definitely take a look at those two reads. Hi, Ash. Do you require breaker candles to be printed within the kill zone? No, the candle itself does not need to be printed in the kill zone. What needs to occur during the kill zone is your confirmation. So the moment all three of those confirmations are completed, when you can check off all three of those things, that's when it's confirmed. And I want that confirmation to occur during the kill zone, right? So if your breaker block is the 920 candle and the market opens at 930, right? But you don't get your confirmation to your setup until 945, I would use that breaker because the confirmation occurred during the kill zone. NQ just tapped 1 hour equilibrium. It looks like you're most likely using this as your range. And that makes sense. Very good job. All right, so that you'd be back into a premium. And premium is where you would want to look for shorts. So I agree with that statement. Very good job. Using the same example on NQ 1 hour uni, how you enter on the 5-minute time frame. No, you use your entry on the time frame that you find the entry function, right? So if it's a 1 hour entry function, then you execute the 1 hour chart. If it's a 5-minute entry function, then you execute on the 5-minute chart. Which time frame is the favorite to use for the unicorn model? There is no favorite. That's a personal decision, right? Some people like to use the 1-minute chart. Some people like to use the 5-minute chart. Some people like to use the 15-minute chart. It's a personal preference. There is no better time frame. You'll see more unicorn models on the 1-minute time frame than the 5-minute. You'll see more unicorn models on the 5-minute time frame than the 1 hour chart. It depends on your frequency, right? And in my opinion, I don't want to trade all day long every single day. So I have no need to go on the 1-minute chart anymore. Can we use equilibrium as a higher time frame point of interest? If that's a part of your model, be my guest. If you feel like doing that, nobody is to tell you that you're wrong. That's not something that I do, right? The higher time frame points of interest that I use are swing highs, swing lows, and FVGs. But nobody should tell you you're wrong. What answers that question is your results, your data, right? If you're profitable using equilibrium as a higher time frame point of interest, you should keep doing that. If you're not profitable, right, then review the data and see what you need to change. Take a quick peek at YM too. I don't execute YM, but let's see what it's doing over here. Like the same as NQ and ES. Let's see if maybe there's some SMT against. Does slightly look like the weaker pair. Let's see. I think NQ and ES might have been up here. Let's just take a quick look. Oh, no, it wasn't. Never mind. So there is no, was this 1500? Might have been against NQ. Oh, wrong button. Sorry. Nope. So no SMT yet. So nothing to do here yet. What would be the structure time frame if the hourly was our entry? Time frame alignment. Okay, the daily is aligned with the hourly. The hourly is aligned with the 5 minute. Just use time frame alignment to see which time frames are aligned. If you need that information, that's in the Discord. Go to the education section of the Discord and look for the time frame alignment. Right, so the daily is aligned with the 1 hour. Hey Ash, when you determine a bias from the daily time frame, how do I use the change in the state of delivery on the 1 hour time frame to confirm it? Right, so if you have a bearish bias, okay, so you were bearish from the daily chart, then you go to your hourly chart for market structure, right? And you use the most recent information. So you had a change in the state of delivery here. This is a bearish change in the state of delivery. And then you had a bullish change in the state of delivery here, right? So if you're currently bearish from the daily chart, the most recent information shows you a bullish change in the state of delivery, right? So if you're using change in the state of delivery as your confirmation to that bias, right? You do not currently have a bearish change in the state of delivery. The most recent information shows you a bullish change in the state of delivery. So you just go to your hourly time frame, you use the most recent information, you look for your change in the state of delivery. In this case, if we have a bullish uni on the hourly, are you still sure to play bearish uni on the 5 minute? Doesn't that bother you? There's no bearish unicorn on the 5 minute. There has been no short position pointed to, right? I stated earlier a bearish bias, and then I stated that we are currently moving higher, right? So it's okay to have a bearish bias. We do not need to participate in every single move. But since we're moving higher right now, we do not want to just instantly jump into shorts. We'll wait, right? I'm more than okay with waiting. I'm completely okay if bias is wrong, right? Like if bias is wrong, then price will continue to keep moving higher. And if there's no entry function for a short position, then it doesn't matter if bias is wrong because there's no risk taken, right? So, for example, this morning, you heard me say that I'm looking for the lows to be the draw on liquidity. And I'm still sitting here saying that. But what you haven't seen me do is point to a short position, right? I have not taken out this tool and said, okay, we're going to look at this short right here. That's because there's no short on the screen. There is no short position to take. So it's okay to have a bearish bias, even though price is moving higher. We do not need to instantly jump into a short position just because we have a bias. We continue to keep waiting until we find an entry function that aligns with our bias. So since there's no entry function yet, I have no short position to take that aligns with my bearish bias. To our failed swings and bearish order block, which would make sense to retrap and confirm further downside. Yeah, it's good that this sent us back into a premium, right? So that bullish unicorn that you're pointing to right here, I do like that. Oh, couple things here. So bullish unicorn that you just pointed to, I do like that it left all the failure swings, right? All these failure swings right here as a draw on liquidity for the downside. And then I was saying that I like that it brought us back into a premium, right? So if you look at the current price leg, right, it gave us a nice bounce, got back to equilibrium, which would be premium up here, discount down here. So in a bearish market, we want to be shorting from a premium, right? So here's a premium there. And then we go down to the 5-minute, and let's see if it ever creates a bearish unicorn. Right, we'll leave the premium on here. We'll see if it ever displaces through the down close candle. Trying to. There's no FVG anyway, so it can't be a unicorn. Either way, it did not displace through the down close candle, so there's no opportunity to even look at yet. That's why we continue to keep waiting. Do you take USDT for payment? No, we don't have crypto options. We don't have crypto options for the mentorship. I just lost my spot on the chat. Just give me a second. How often do you have a setup? Setups appear every single day, multiple times a day. It's a matter of risk management. As I stated earlier, I don't want to be risking every single day. I don't take positions every single day. I don't want to be taking positions multiple times a day. A very simple risk management decision to choose that to only risk 1 time a day maximum, 2 times a week maximum. That's what fits my lifestyle. That's what fits my risk management. That's what works best for my mental. Right? Positions occur every single day. I don't take positions every single day. It's my choice, my risk management. What was the second book? Best Loser Wins by Tom Hogarth. Phenomenal read. I highly suggest everybody here reads that. I see you posting London session trades. I'm from the US. I'm normally sleeping 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. If there is no execution labels shown on the chart, then I did not execute that position. Very simple. If there is no execution labels shown on the chart, I did not execute that position. Okay. Yes, I do post London trades. That's because anytime my model presents itself, I document it. Journaling is the #1 priority. That is going to be your best learning opportunity. Journal, journal, journal. Trading in the Zone. Yep, Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas is the other one. Unbelievable the amount of points they moved. If ES will make a uni, stop will be around 60 points. Never see that. Yep, that's why we have to understand. I mentioned in the beginning of the stream the enhanced risk, right? There is more risk in the marketplace because there's more volatility, right? So get off the minis, use the micros, right? Just because there's more risk in the marketplace doesn't mean you should accept more risk. You still need to be a risk manager, and you need to position size accordingly to handle that volatility. So get off the minis and go to the micros, right? Go smaller position size. Possible 5-minute unicorn on NQ. I do not see any unicorn on NQ. I've been waiting and watching this entire morning. We have yet to be presented with a short opportunity. And that's okay. I'll continue to keep waiting. Hi, Ash. Could we say market is sweeping over old high created on the hourly 3 a.m.? Yeah, we swept out an hourly swing high, right? You can see a swing high right here. That's the 3 a.m. that you're referring to. I agree with what you're saying. Yes, price is sweeping an hourly swing high. I agree with that statement. Again, doesn't matter because there's no entry function to engage with the market yet. The bearish big candle. Yeah, this could be a breaker. It's not yet because we did not displace through it. If we were to go sweep the highs again, then we would have a new breaker. Then it would be these ones. As of right now, we would be watching this one because that's the current sweep, but it has not displaced through it. So we cannot call it a breaker until you get a candle closure through it. No unicorns yet? Exactly. Continue to be patient. Continue to wait because there is no unicorn yet. Patience is a virtue. A lot of times in this business is spent doing nothing. If you can't sit and wait and be patient, it's going to be very hard to make progress in this business. Majority of the time, it is spent doing nothing in this business. Like this morning, right? I've just been sitting here talking. I have not pointed to any position because there's no entry function shown on the screen. Right? If you have a model, it's your responsibility to follow that model. We just wait until that model presents itself. If it doesn't present itself, that's okay. Then just take no position. It is that simple. Just keep waiting. Is there a sound problem? No, I don't think there's any sound problem. We've been having a great conversation all morning. Ash, you are not fully committed to your rules. I would highly disagree with that statement. How often do you take a trade? Because I rarely see a 5-minute setup. I average 1 to 2 trades on a week. Again, that's a risk management decision. There is more than 1 to 2 trades presented in a week. I just choose to only take 1 or 2. Is the hourly change in the state of delivery only used when you can't determine a bias on the daily time frame? If you need a confirmation to your bias, then look at market structure. Right? If you're bearish, but you are not confident in your bearish bias, then go to the hourly market structure and look for a change in the state of delivery that aligns with that bias. What is the longest time without taking a trade without your model? Again, I average 1 to 2 trades a week. So I am trading every week. Model presents itself daily, so you could trade every single day if you wanted to. But again, I choose not to because of risk management. So price still moving higher. Bearish bias has not presented an opportunity yet. That's completely okay. Again, I would rather take no trade at all and take no risk, because then I do not lose any money. Right? So I'd rather be flat with a incorrect bias than force my opinion on the market. That's why we use a model, to know how to engage with the market. Right? Since the bearish unicorn has not presented itself today, it doesn't matter that I have a bearish bias, because there is no risk to take. And I'm more than okay with that. We'll continue to keep waiting. Again, I'm not going to force myself upon the market. See if any position provides. If not, I'm more than okay with being flat for today. Why can't the 955 candle be used as a bearish breaker? 955. This is not... Okay, so again, a bearish breaker, you have to have a swing high, a swing low, a new high, then a new low. Right? So let's do that on the chart. Swing high, swing low, new high. This is the only thing that we have right now. Right, so we have not displaced through the bearish breaker. Therefore, we cannot have a bearish breaker. There is no bearish breaker shown on the screen. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you trade prior to FOMC meetings. On FOMC, I do not trade. The day of FOMC, I do not trade. Do I need to study ICT or just learn from you? You should be learning from this right here, the chart. So this is where you need to start right here. Spend time with price action is my first opinion. In my back testing, majority of the time, major consolidation leading up to the event. Yep, I definitely agree with that. Non-farm payroll, CPI, FOMC. The days leading up to those events, you can expect the market to consolidate. It's trying to engineer liquidity on both sides of the marketplace so that it could be taken out during the news release. Right, so the day before CPI, or the day before NFP, or the day before FOMC, expecting consolidation makes sense. Ash, can you recommend any good videos or books on how to tackle fear of losing? Yep, we talked about books multiple times today. The Best Loser Wins by Tom Hogard, or Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. Go read those two books. Do I believe in macros? I mean, it's just an hourly open or close. An hourly candle opening, an hourly candle closing. So whatever you want to call that, I don't really care what words you use. But when an hourly candle opens, you see volatility. That's all it comes down to. Will you take a breaker without an FVG inside of it? No. I only trade the unicorn model. If there is no FVG inside the breaker, I don't trade it. Yes, you can use the unicorn model on any asset. You only take trades on the 5-minute. I have taken 1-minute trades. I have taken 5-minute trades. I have taken 15-minute trades. I've taken hourly trades. I've taken daily trades. I'm in a trade. Should I close it before the news? This is not a signal service. Not looking to advise you on your own trade. All right, so no position so far this morning. More than okay with being flat. Not going to force myself upon price, right? I had a bearish bias. Wanted price to reach for the lows. There was nothing to engage with that idea. Price has just been moving higher. We have not received one of these right here, right? A bearish unicorn. Since that has not happened, I have not taken any risk. Hence the live stream, right? I haven't pointed to any short positions because there hasn't been any. Right, so I'm not going to force myself upon the market. Therefore, I'm going to begin to wrap up the live stream. Before I do wrap up the live stream, do me a favor and like this video. Sub to the channel. We continue to keep going live every single week. Definitely follow along on Twitter as well. The amount of giveaways that I've done on Twitter is more than I've seen any other accounts. So we continue to keep doing giveaways. We're doing our best to provide value to the community every single week. We'll continue to keep giving away accounts because we're trying to give people the opportunity at another source of income. Since there hasn't been anything to execute today, I'm not going to force myself upon the market. Instead, I'd rather go to the gym, start working on other businesses, and get on with my day. Day trading is not everyday trading. You have to be a risk manager. You have to manage your risk first. And I'm more than okay with not taking any risk today, knowing that the bias was wrong. And please take note of this as well. You don't have to be right all the time. We got bias wrong this morning, but there was no risk taken. So being wrong doesn't mean losing money. Being capable of identifying when you're wrong and then deciding not to risk saves you a lot of money. That's what today's example was. I wanted price to go to the lows. Price never created a bearish unicorn for me to engage with that idea. So I have no risk to take today. Nonetheless, it was a phenomenal conversation, and I just want to say thank you to everybody that's here. I greatly appreciate all of the questions and comments. It provides a lot of value. It allows us to go over a lot of information as we're waiting and watching. So thank you to everybody that was here. I greatly appreciate every single one of you. I will be heading over to the general chat of the Discord as I start to prepare to head out to the gym. Thank you once again. I will see you all in the general chat of the Discord. I hope you all have a great day. Until next time, have a nice day, everyone.